Over the last decade, WWE has slowly but surely lost a large portion of casual wrestling fans. With falling ratings making it more evident that the industry is going through a downtime, now hardcore fans have turned on the company. With the alternative of AEW, more hardcore fans have turned away from WWE. WWE could have avoided all of this and more if they had been careful to avoid several fatal mistakes they made in the last 10 years. This is Wrestling Up, and here are 10 fatal mistakes WWE made in the last decade. Before we get into the rest of the video, make sure you subscribe to Wrestling Hub and turn on all notifications to stay up to date with everything in the world of pro wrestling. Also, don't forget to follow us on Instagram at WrestlingHubOfficial and also follow us on Twitter at Wrestling_Hub. WWE was not always about the stars of yesteryears. While top names like Hulk Hogan and Kevin Nash often dropped in, they were not the sole focus of shows. This is a concept that has changed drastically over a decade. Nowadays, Goldberg, John Cena, and other stars of a certain caliber are the ones still selling the tickets even though they are past their prime and have moved on from the company. This started towards 2011. WWE was firmly in the PG era as popularity started to fall, with champions being looked down upon as those who never deserved to hold the title, such as Jack Swagger. WWE was also stuck in an endless loop of John Cena and Randy Orton battling, with up-and-coming stars getting buried like Zack Ryder and Kofi Kingston. Shawn Michaels had retired the previous year, Triple H had taken a step back from full-time wrestling, and Edge had suffered an injury and had to retire. WWE could simply not create new stars. In a promo with The Undertaker, Triple H even asked Taker ahead of their Mania battle who was even left other than him. "You have no challenges left." "Well, you beat me a decade ago, but what are you gonna do? Work Ezekiel Jackson?" WWE was self-aware. They could have taken this knowledge and built up stars who were still young. Instead, they went the way of making short-term profits by booking older stars on top. Brock Lesnar returned and defeated CM Punk. Undertaker defeated Punk. The honor of defeating Taker was given to Lesnar, someone who never needed it. Goldberg was brought back. The Rock came back and had a feud with Cena, who was the only one allowed to defeat The Rock. There was no future building. WWE bringing in part-timers set into motion the greatest disaster of this generation, a complete lack of top stars. To be fair to WWE, it was not like they were devoid of ideas, but the booking left a lot to be desired. The Nexus was the best idea by WWE in a long time. In the PG era, everything felt predictable. It was a question of whether John Cena or Randy Orton would rise up next. Nexus was made up of the contestants from the first season of NXT. They arrived with something of a grudge and attacked, taking out Cena, ringside attendants, commentators, and later even Vince McMahon. It seemed they were unstoppable. With a leader as charismatic as Wade Barrett, it seemed WWE the perfect trump card in their hands, something they could mold to solve their issues. And then Nexus battled Cena's team, and Cena was able to overcome them at SummerSlam. The angle that could have lasted more than a year ended within months. After that, it was only a matter of time before they were broken up and gone. Just like that, the company destroyed one of the top angles of the decade. The moment CM Punk dropped the pipe bomb, he was seen as standing up to everything wrong in WWE. In a way, when Punk, hampered and distressed by WWE creative decisions, decided to leave, WWE was setting up itself for the biggest mistake. A faction of fans would grow, clamoring for the company to change their ways, and this support led to an awareness of the independent scene. They would never get Punk back, with the star deciding to come out of retirement for AEW, as he had this to say about going back to WWE. "I'm not sure if it was ever really an option to go back there. There was so much history there, so much baggage." There was a time when the Intercontinental title was almost as prestigious as the WWE Championship, being held by the next big star. However, given the surplus of titles in WWE, they ended up devaluing championships. When they united the WWE and World Heavyweight belts, it helped the world title to matter more, but instead, years down the line, they would introduce new titles like the Universal Belt. Putting aside the multiple titles on NXT and NXT UK, there is the WWE title, Universal title, the 2 tag belts for the men, the women's tag belts, the IC strap, the US belt, the Raw and SmackDown women's titles, and the 24/7 belt. For the Raw and SmackDown women's belts, they were swapped among wrestlers due to brand changes. If WWE champions just appear on both brands, the titles would matter more. Today, Roman Reigns is the biggest star in WWE. However, he's the only star in WWE of that level, but it's not the only problem. The company have developed a habit of listening to only what they want from their shows. As a result, the audience has been turned away. When WWE decided to push Roman as the top face, fans wholeheartedly rejected him. At first, it seemed like he was going to be the man who came in and picked up a roster which lacked a leader, but it soon became clear he was no John Cena. While Cena was divisive, he had his strong base of fans. Reigns was simply a better heel than he was a face, and fans turned on him and WWE as a whole. For years, the company was having their top face on the show getting booed. As a result, WWE lost momentum and goodwill. When they finally turned him heel, he became the biggest star. Had they just listened to fans, they would not have wasted most of the last decade pursuing something that was not to be. At some point in the last decade, WWE decided that they would be the storehouse of all stars. They were signing all the top names from the indies. It was an exciting time to be a wrestling fan, as it was like seeing all your favorite local stars become top names in the biggest company. However, while Triple H was making NXT the mecca of wrestling, the rest of the company was not the same. These stars Triple H helped to establish on NXT were being called up to the main roster, and inevitably, their booking was so horrible that it was akin to having the stars buried. Every time a top NXT name made the jump to the main roster, Vince McMahon was booking them like jobbers. He clearly did not understand the characters they came with and tried to change them to suit his vision. That drastically differed from the wrestlers that fans had grown to love on NXT. Be it stars like Neville, Bo Dallas, Sami Zayn, Keith Lee, or any star who had become a top name in NXT, it was rare for them to find even a fraction of that same success on the main roster. The disastrous booking led to WWE destroying several stars who were capable of becoming top names. A lesson to be learned from the Monday Night Wars is that you don't let the top names of your company walk out on you. Jon Moxley was one of the most beloved WWE stars. Kids and adults alike loved the star. The star was one of the top names in the company. Then, all of a sudden, WWE started to book him in a manner that made no sense. They turned him heel in the worst way possible with a character that suddenly made no sense. He was taking injections where he should not have been and beating up Seth Rollins on a regular basis. However, frustrated with the way that his character had been ruined on WWE TV, Jon Moxley decided that he had had enough and refused to sign a contract extension as he walked away from WWE. The best step of his life was waiting for him with Tony Khan and Cody Rhodes having founded AEW. He was joining the opposition and was immediately the top name there, becoming the champion within a year and ruling the roost of the promotion. This is something WWE could have achieved with Moxley had they booked him correctly. Instead, they gave their opposition one of the most popular wrestlers, who helped to take them to another level and brought a lot of fans along with him. WWE was seemingly in a better place in 2019 with Paul Heyman in control of booking on Raw. The matches were more innovative and different wrestlers were being pushed. Combined with Rollins' attitude on social media pushing fans away, the way he was booked by the company did not help his image. This was also a time where The Fiend was making his mark as he was set to face Rollins inside Hell in a Cell. In a match with no disqualifications, Rollins hit The Fiend with a hammer and the match was stopped by the referee, which led to fans revolting. It single-handedly stopped Rollins' momentum, eventually forcing the company to turn him heel, while destroying the undefeatable character The Fiend portrayed only months into its existence. If done correctly, these two could have led WWE to their next step, but instead they ruined both. Naturally, Rollins was extremely upset about this, even talking about wanting to strangle the WWE chairman. Rollins and Wyatt had a plan for the match, but they were not allowed to go the way they wanted with it, something that has been a problem that's been repeated in WWE. With AEW coming up, WWE has managed to alienate a large portion of fans. The reason is simple, their booking makes no sense. WWE takes popular stars that fans love, destroys their characters, gives them generic music and speeches that say nothing. They've been doing this for a while now, and putting Bruce Pritchard in charge has helped further that. Pritchard was a good man to have telling stories, but is past his prime and does not know what fans want. It's the same with Vince McMahon. Though if they had fresh wrestling writers to back him up, this might not be a problem. Instead, they have brought forth writers who don't know anything about wrestling. This has led to the company losing out majorly on what it could have been, and the writing has been sloppy. No wrestling fan could bear to watch a full Raw show. If WCW was still around here competing with the company, the Monday Night Wars would end in a week. Vince McMahon was the man who made WWE what it is today. However, he's also the man who is killing the wrestling business. At 76, he is no longer the genius who knew what the wrestling business needed. Living in his own small bubble, he has lost all contact with reality, and over the years, it has seemed that he does not have an idea, week to week, what's happening in the company. He is so behind the times, it's not even funny, as pop culture does not even exist in his little world. As a result, the wrestling content put out by WWE is also behind the times and a shadow of what it had once been. The solution? Jon Moxley himself said that Vince needed to let go. We need to figure it out or step aside and let someone who knows what's going on take over. Who else is there? Triple H has clearly been preparing for this. When Vince isn't there, he is the guy you go to. His ideas are his ideas. Hopefully at some point, WWE will be able to rectify these issues, but will it be too late? And these were 10 fatal mistakes that WWE made in the last decade. I hope you're all having a great day. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you later.